10th, 2017. My name is Kuldip Randhawa. I live in Surrey, BC, British Columbia, a province of Canada, a nation considered at the forefront of human rights. I have posted a number of videos on YouTube concerning various frauds that have occurred within the court system and a number of projects in which I was involved. The fraud is totally against me. This video concerns itself with the project in Oliver, BC. It's a fraud which was assisted by the government working in the background. To talk about this project, I want to quickly give a brief outline of what the project is. It was a 37 lot subdivision in Oliver, BC. The parcel of 7 acres was secured by me after doing some due diligence around July of 2004. The property was purchased around September 2004 and the plans commenced early, so there was little time to waste here. The project was done in record time. There's a project of 3 partners, myself, Janelle Singh Gill and Damajit Singh Garibal. The project was done in such a way that the 37 lot subdivision, 33 lots were supposed to be single family lots that were going to be sold to pay off for most of the expenses. So we now have 4 lots which were considered as multifamily sites. In addition to this subdivision that was done by Oasis partnership, another parcel was purchased within the town of Oliver. This parcel had a single family residence on it, a rancher, and it was also zoned as a multifamily site. The intent was to build the condo sites and eventually have rental income from the 5 sites that we now have from the 2 parcels that were purchased, the 7 acres and the single family within the lot, within the town of Oliver. So after the 33 lots were sold, they were essentially, we're going to take care of all of the expenses, and then we were then supposed to develop the condo sites so we can have rental revenue. When the project was commenced, it was commenced on the basis that a local rep was selected within the partnership. That was Janelle Singh Gill. Mr. Gill was supposed to be looking after the interest of the partnership. That included reporting to me, as I was responsible for the design through my company, Ekima Consulting Engineers Limited. As you will see from the other videos that I've put on YouTube, the company is now called Ekima Consultants Inc. So in the project, unaware of what was truly happening, Mr. Gill was put in a position of trust. He also had the duty to protect the interest of Mr. Garibal. So we had all contributed loan towards the parcel. We had also taken a mortgage. The property was purchased for $1,050,000. 2 of the lots were pre-sold to the same person that sold the property to us, and that was Mr. Pedro Barata. Unfortunately, he's passed away and he's no longer with us. But he had purchased the 2 lots ahead of time, and then after that the project commenced with various works that are needed for a subdivision. And so these works include putting in the services, the storm sewer, the connections, the sanitary, manholes, catch basins, land drains, and so forth. In this particular case, there is no storm system in the town of Oliver, so we have an alternative system of soakaway designs where the water goes to a manhole and then it goes into a soakaway. The drainage of the cul-de-sac, which was a dead-end cul-de-sac, was dealt with by having additional soakaways in the turnaround. So most of the design issues were resolved and the subdivision was allowed to proceed. Because of this subdivision being done in 2 phases, because of adjacent subdivision that was also undergoing, the roads had to be developed, and so this was a good opportunity for the town to include the road that was being upgraded because of the other subdivision. And so some of these lots were sold ahead of time. That was actually a benefit to the project, a benefit to all of the partners, including myself. So when you take into consideration that all of the partners were involved in this project, they were fully aware of the expenses on this project. And so later on, around about April of 2005, the so-called investigation by APEC BC resulted in some changes in the attitudes, both from the town of Oliver and including the partner, in particular, Mr. Gill. What had actually happened is I had filed a complaint to CRA because I had realized that some of the materials that were sold, fills, and some of the items that were supposed to be sold and then declared to a partnership, some of that would have come to me as a proportionate share according to our shareholding. And so those items were stolen. As far as I'm concerned, they were done by Mr. Gill. I had no reason to believe that Mr. Garewal was involved in this. But since then, the litigation has been commenced against us. The action is S126454. And so Mr. Garewal, despite being discovered in these litigation proceedings in such a way that he was made to realize that information was not being disclosed to the partnership by Mr. Gill as the local rep. And so he had a choice of withdrawing, but he did not. He continued. So as far as I'm aware, there may be some agreement between Mr. Gill and Garewal. It doesn't matter anymore. The fact of the matter is that when a theft has occurred, a person cannot continue reporting to CRA with false information. So my complaint to CRA was to investigate the skimming that was taking place by Mr. Gill. As far as I'm concerned, is now taking place by both parties. So what does CRA do when you have a complaint made by one of the partners? They're supposed to investigate. CRA did no investigation whatsoever. And then, soon after that, I reported this matter to the RCMP in Oliver because soils, considerable soils, and also gravel was stockpiled on one of the lots. So the soils were sold, some of it was declared, but not all of it was. The gravel was actually claimed as being given to another person in town who clearly was not aware of what was actually happening here and the deception that was done by Mr. Gill. That was done to cover up the other fills that were sold to another company in town. And so the fills were considerable. There's a reason why the material was being saved. Was because we could then use it on other projects so that we don't have to purchase it down the road, because purchasing it down the road on another project would cost more money. So a company in town has taken it, and according to the town of Oliver, who were unaware of where this gravel was being taken to, which was being trucked. And so when the matter was reported to the police that a theft has taken place, the police had to investigate this matter. They did no investigation whatsoever. And so the process is, when the police does not investigate, you have the right to file a complaint to the police commissioner, to have the police officers who are involved in this investigation to be investigated itself for not taking action when the theft has taken place. That ended up in delays, time wasted, time taken to write letters. Try to put yourself in my situation. At the end of the day, they did no investigation either. So if you live in the town of Oliver and you own a property there, someone steals from your front yard, what would you do? You call the police. They open up a file number and they don't investigate. Is this a nation that's operating under law? I don't think it is. And so the issue is this: why was that fraud not investigated? Why did CRA not investigate the ex-partners? And why did the material that was stolen, why did the police not investigate the theft when everybody knows what theft is? And so it goes on. Eventually, the ex-partners, Gill and Garewal, file an action against me. And that action is basically to steal my shares, to claim that I've done a bad job on the design, despite the fact that the subdivision was approved. And some of the changes that had taken place, as recommended by the town of Oliver, were actually in our favor. Some land basins were eliminated from the project. The cul-de-sac drainage issue was resolved by having an additional soakaway. So in addition to this, they, at the 11th hour, soon after the APEG discipline process, which is covered by a separate video, the town of Oliver stated that they wanted a sort of a French stain to be taken away from the cul-de-sac so that the dead-end cul-de-sac would have accumulation of water, notwithstanding the fact that most of the lots were actually sloped away from the road, so the water would not come to the road. I guess they didn't know this. I guess the engineers at the town of Oliver were unaware of this thing, who had actually approved the subdivision. I guess they expected the water to flow uphill here, then force its way onto the cul-de-sac. This is the nature of engineering at the present time in BC. And so true consultants, who clearly knew that the fills were there, were they not aware of this? Did they not report this to the town of Oliver? When the trucks were going through the town of Oliver streets, were the town of Oliver staff not aware of this? But yet, when I'm supposed to clear some of the maintenance, which I did do, driving from Surrey cost me extra money. I then made an application in the proceeding S126454, and I was told that Mr. Gill had to take care of the lots, and he has not. So is that not contempt of court? But yet the town of Oliver still writes to me when they want to clear the lots. But when material is being stolen from the site, they don't tell me about this. They don't tell me that another company in town has taken the fills. Money that should have come into the partnership, and proportion of that would come to me. So now that has been pocketed by Mr. Gill and Garwell. And so then that litigation is not over. Then you have Mr. Conwer here, who's acting for Mr. Gill and Garwell. Mr. Conwer here worked with Dinsa Law, a law firm located in Burnaby, BC. Since that time, he started his own company. He's also related to Mr. Gill. He goes to court as a lawyer, an officer of the court, and deceives Master Keithley in one of the applications where he claimed that he never received the trial documents when clearly he had signed for them. And so now that matter, which was going to trial, was delayed. Because delaying an action is then delaying justice. And then a few years go by. Now I'm actually taking the toll of the APEG BC proceedings, and now we have this action commenced by Mr. Gill and Garwell when they clearly know that stealing is a crime, and his lawyers know that stealing is a crime. What explanation did they have? Did these fills just evaporate into thin air? And so then CRA gets involved. Instead of investigating the ex-partners, Gill and Garwell, who then go to an accountant, Mr. Parihar and Associates, Mr. Gurminder Parihar, who recently actually was running for MLA. And I recall him crossing 80th Avenue and going to a party hall days before the election was going to take place. He had a considerable following of Sikhs. And so were the Sikhs who were following him, were they aware that this person was actually himself involved in the crime? Because when he reported to CRA, he reported the partnership income of two partners. The third partner, Mr. Kuldip Randhawa, who is making this video, was not even contacted. He wasn't even considered a partner. How does one do that? It's almost as if they've been told, Kuldip's not going to get anything, and they're not going to be investigated. And so Is this what's happening here? That people who are being elected into politics are involved in crimes? So the corruption can be expanded and continued, and our culture can be exploited, and our people can be misguided. Is this what Canada is all about? And so Mr. Parihar could not tell them that there's about $1.8 million of expenses. And so the CRA does an assessment. They don't include all of the expenses. The hydrants, the street lights, the pavement, the curving, manholes. These do not cost $0. These items are not free. One does not go to a supplier and say, give me the street lights and I'm not going to pay nothing for it. This is how ridiculous this is. And so $1.8 million of expenses are not considered. And so CRA comes along and puts charges on the lands so that I can't refinance. I then managed to find a person who assisted me, Mr. Raj Sekon, someone who helped me in another proceeding to get a financing. And so he gives me a mortgage, and he's fully aware of the frauds that are taking place. And so CRA now commenced another action, which is before Judge Murray, the same judge that had me arrested on June 8th, 2017, for raising concerns with the legal system, for raising concerns that lawyers are doing fraud before the court. And so those lands in which 4 people are now involved, they don't file a response to the tax fraud that's taking place. And so these people are going to be paying close to $300,000 or $400,000 of taxes when there's no taxes owed. What truly is happening here? And so the person that is going to raise some concerns, and that's myself, has been singled out, and he's not given notification. And so I go to court and I make a submission to a judge, Judge Groper, that CRA is involved in fraud, and this fraud is done in Her Majesty's name. We have people here in Canada that are deceiving the public. They're promoted into politics. They're deceiving the public, and they're deceiving Her Majesty the Queen. Because the expectation is that Her Majesty the Queen simply has to tell the Attorney General that this is what you have to do. They know what the requirements are. And so this matter does not get investigated, and it continues right up to the court. And the person now is suffering, not by people within the court, but people within the community who now have to somehow protect the Sikh image, because we simply can't have Sikhs with turbans involved in fraud. That would create a bad image for the Sikhs. So our culture is being played with. Our honor and dignity is being played with. You expect people to turn up to court and have them searched. I think I don't need to say any more. I just need to provide one example. That when you have a suspension bridge, and CRA as a competent tax authority knows that the cost of the cables is an expense. They know that the cables that are going to cost close to $1.5 to $3 million or whatever it is on a suspension bridge is going to be an expense. They know that the concrete that's going to go into the piers is an expense. They know that the precast beams forming the deck of the bridge are going to be part of the expense for the contract. This is not difficult stuff. So does CRA not know this? Did the partners not know this? And they're just going to pay taxes when there's no taxes owed? And And then they don't file a opposition to the response because they've been told not to. Because they know that the police is not going to investigate. And then now you have the sheriffs. So because now one person is being singled out and he's being attacked for speaking the truth, and now they are protecting their own crimes that they've committed because they know that they're going to be sent to jail. So they then tell the sheriffs, if Mr. Randhawa comes, search him. When the sheriffs are aware that under the Sheriff's Act, a person has the right to speak one's mind. He should not be assaulted, harassed, intimidated in going to a court which is considered a place where justice is going to be delivered. The sanctity of the court is all about that. I think I've said enough. I need the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau to issue an executive order. I am appealing to all of the law enforcing agencies within Canada and perhaps beyond the borders of Canada to intervene here. I'm requiring Her Majesty the Queen to order a decree or some sort of a document which will allow this problem to be investigated. Because when you have no proper governance, the authority does exist with the Queen by issuing some sort of a document, some sort of an order that is within the powers of the monarchy. Canada needs a Queen. She is in a position to solve this problem. And at Christmas time, perhaps she can talk about the cultural exploitation that's taking place in the Christmas message. So some goodwill can be spread out, so Christians can come forward and help Sikhs, just as Sikhs have actually helped Christians in the past. If anyone wishes to contact me, they can do so. My name is Kuldip Randhawa. My email is kuldiprandhawa5@gmail.com. That's KULDIPRANDHAWA5@gmail.com. God bless.